Thank you.
May I ask, does it have a meaning?
Yeah, my first name, Nhien, means natural.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
my dad named me, and yeah, just sort of if you are yourself, like,
Oh,
if you are yourself. I know, yeah.
that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
very meaningful, like, I didn't know it till later in life, and the idea that if you wanna like, it's actually we're Vietnamese, but it was from a Chinese poem that essentially said, "If you are" the Nguyen, which means if you are yourself, the true perfume will flow from that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, wow, wow,
yeah,
wow.
and it feels like that's my life mission to help people see
Yes.
themselves, you
Yes.
know? Yeah,
That
so
is so stunning. I love that so much. Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Yes, that okay. Well, that I could go down that forever, but I will officially say, yay, I'm so grateful to be here with Rev Nien.
Mm.
She, dear friend of mine, was like, you need to talk to her. She just wrote this beautiful book. And so I'm just so grateful and just feel honored to share this space with you here today. And I've been reading your beautiful book and so many things. I might embarrass myself by saying, I thought I knew a pretty good amount about the Enneagram. And then as I dove into your book, I was like, well, I guess I've just been scratching the surface. I think there was a time, it was probably
Mm.
maybe 5 years ago, where I learned about my Enneagram type and read up and researched and read some books on it. And then I kind of fizzled out. I was like, okay, I got some of that. And now reading your book, I'm like, oh, wow, this has to do with everything that I love. Living from our most authentic self and raising our consciousness and
Yeah.
just enjoying our lives. So I'm excited to talk to you. And last thing, and I will stop rambling, I promise, is all the quotes that you use. I'm like, I feel like she might be my soul sister.
Oh,
Like, like from Book of Miracles to Tony Robbins to Rumi to The Untethered Soul. I'm just like, I love this. And I feel so aligned and grateful that you put this out in the world.
aw. Thank you
So,
so much. Well, what an
yeah.
introduction, and I have to tell you, when you described the book as beautiful, I mean, oh, that just touched me so deeply because that was my hope, not just to,
Mm,
like, instruct people or
yeah.
to offer something that feels beautiful because I think that
Oh,
beauty is a portal to the divine.
wow.
And yeah, so that's extra special to me. And the quotes, okay, I need to tell you, since I was
Yeah.
a little girl, so I really felt like I didn't belong in my family and in the world, the society around me. So I turned to books.
Mm,
And so books were my closest friends as a child. And I've been collecting quotes. Like
mm.
originally it was a 3-ring binder. Now it is
Was it?
it's a Google Doc now.
Yeah.
But, like, since I was little, I have a collection of my favorite poems and clips and quotes, and it sustained me. It
Mm.
inspired me, it helped me to know that there were thoughts and voices that were more like my own than the
Wow.
ones that were in my immediate vicinity, right? So it
Yeah.
gave me a sense of kinship
Wow.
where I didn't otherwise feel that,
That's
in my
stunning.
early yeah, so
That's
that's where my
stunning.
quotes come
Yeah,
from.
I love that. I love knowing that. And I said this too when you got on. I'm like, this might sound so weird, but you just glow. And when you say beauty is a portal to the divine, I'm like, well, you're divine because you're just this
Oh
like
my gosh.
glowing human. So, Nan, I would love to hear from your voice, just kind of who you are, what you're up to, anything from your ministry to what you like to do on a random Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, wow, big question.
Yeah, yeah. Big question.
First of all, the question of my life,
Yeah.
who are you?
Who are you?
You mentioned A Course in Miracles. I
Yeah.
resonate with that. I've gotta tell you, there's a line in A Course in Miracles that says, that don't ask the ego, "Who am I?" It is the only thing that does not know. Yeah, this idea that, like, we try to name ourselves and we have
Yes.
this idea, but it's only a self-concept. like the ego has no idea, like with the
Yeah.
fullness of being. So I'll start there. So
That's the
I
best.
know you probably meant something more practical, but that's
Oh, hey, I love the non-practical. Yeah.
so, but just this idea that who or what I am is so much bigger than anything I could name, right? And as soon as I name, I limit, right? But like, what is this incarnational being that is Nhien in this moment? I think is what you're asking. So I'll answer that question. Who
I
am
love
I?
that so
Well,
much.
in classic, I identify as a type 3 on the Enneagram, so I'll just, like, out myself right now because I know, like, people who listen to Enneagram, that's all I wanna know in the
Yeah,
beginning. I was
yeah.
like, "Who is this?" So I can kind of, like so which means that the egoic structure is like, I am what I do, right? So let me tell you what I do. So so I can share that I am an ordained Unity minister, and I am the founder of Evolving Enneagram. And yes, I'm the author of the Enneagram of the Soul. It's a
Mm,
40-day spiritual companion for the 9 types, and we'll definitely talk more about that today. Uh, but I think, like, my core mission in life is really it's like my own healing journey in threeness is this belief that who I am innately is enough,
mm.
is worthy. And not only that, that's the gift to offer the world, not something
Wow.
I strive to be, not
Yeah.
something I curate or form. And so, from my perspective, like the Enneagram names, it's not just the 3, but the 9 different personas that we develop, the 9 different masks, ways we try to make it in the world. And by knowing these, we can find our way home, right? Going, oh, what are the ways that I don't believe that this reality of being is enough? I have to hustle, whether it's like to be powerful enough, to be secure enough, to be helpful enough, whatever those things are. And so my own journey very much merges with what I offer the world, which is this belief. I'll start maybe with the foundation that I don't know how, what range your listeners are here, but I don't believe in original sin. I believe in original blessing. I
Hmm.
believe that
Mhm.
we are actually fundamentally whole.
Yeah.
Yes, we err for sure, but there's this like even deeper beneath our error is this fundamental wholeness.
Yes.
So from that foundation, it's
Yes.
only about uncovering that, revealing that, allowing that because it makes sense that if I don't believe I'm basically good, then I better whip myself into shape, right? As opposed to uncover what is true.
Yes.
But if I'm in truth already whole, perfect, beautiful, sacred, holy, if all of us are at core, then the journey is uncovering, removing the barriers to really being in that spiritual truth.
Yes.
Yeah, and then living from that, radiating from that, and I love that. It was so precious that you named light as, you're like, "Oh, that I'm glowing." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my whole book is." There's
Hmm.
so many metaphor that I use there related to light, related to this idea that when we uncover this, the radiance of our souls then moves through our Enneagram number. Like, so
Wow.
the number's not bad, but this idea that the radiance, but the difference is we try to radiate. I'm like from the point on the Enneagram, like I try to radiate as a 3. I effort into like trying to be this thing
Yeah.
that's shiny versus, oh, if I open to the spirit
Wow.
and from that, there's a natural that's the glow of spirit moving through the lens or the stained glass window that is the 3, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I realized I just moved from, like, who am I to, like,
Yes.
what is my offering? But it's so
Wow.
interrelated.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
beautiful. I was just thinking about that yesterday and this morning, what you said in terms of original blessing. And I don't remember now what the scripture was that I came across yesterday, but it said something like, "You've forgotten, you're
Mm.
forgiven." And I heard it from that lens for the first time of, wait, we're just remembering
Mm.
that. Anyway, so I do, you already explained it so beautifully, but just because I think it's so stunning, how does it make a difference to live from the space of original blessing? How does that make a difference in our just daily life?
Oh my gosh. For me, it's everything, even like you think about the popular mantra in yoga, which is namaste.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, living from original blessing isn't just about me. It's about honoring that you are, irrespective of what your political ideology is,
Yes.
right? Irrespective of your religious beliefs.
Yes.
Like, if I'm not holding you as sacred, I feel like that's my problem, not yours.
Yes.
Like, I feel like that's because I am not seeing rightly. I was blind, but now I see, So it's like this idea that if I'm seeing rightly, then I behold that you are my brother and sister,
Mm.
right? In spirit, like in the essence of like what made us, what formed us, and what we are made of, right?
Yes.
So it changes everything.
Yes.
It's like I think that, my groups, my contemplative Enneagram groups are interspiritual. And
Cool.
people have asked me, I mean, and I've been using that term, I mean, since I began Evolving Enneagram, I founded that in 2019. I mean, I've been teaching for much longer than that.
Yeah.
But when I found it, it was like I wanted to explicitly make it about that. And it was like, well, people are like, well, how can you? I was like, well, because what I happen to believe
Yeah.
that you are holy no matter what you believe.
Mm.
And if I'm holding that in sacred space together, I can
Yes.
make space for the diversity of belief that we know is even present. If you go to any Christian church, if you ask each person what do they believe, there are going to be
Yes.
differences,
Yes.
right? If my love was dependent on what you believe, that's conditional love.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That feels so peaceful to me. So, how did you know you wanted to go into ministry? How did that come about? Because
this
you were first a
irrational
lawyer, right?
So,
Right?
yes, I practiced. This is gonna be really funny. It wasn't just law. The name of the type of law I practiced is called antitrust law.
Really? I missed that. That is funny.
It's
That is
hilarious.
funny.
I mean, not funny, but yes. Maybe to give a little bit more context, just briefly. So I was
Yes,
born in
yes.
Vietnam. Our family fled there at the end of the Vietnam War. We were
Wow.
refugees.
Wow.
My dad was a janitor at the local sewage plant. That's the first job he had, and he
Wow.
worked his way to put us all through, all 5 children, through college.
Wow.
Yes, I mean, he refinanced, remortgaged the house. They worked so hard. My mother, I live with my grandparents. But there was a lot of pressure to do well in school
Uh-huh.
and make a good living. And if you know anything about Asian culture, the gold, they call it gold, is being a doctor. And because I basically suck in science and math, and I was good in English, I was like, I'll just do second best. I'll take the silver, you know? And so, I mean, I became a philosophy major, and then it got me to law school. Like, it was crazy, right? Because I went to Stanford Law School, and I know that there are people who like strived to do that. And I felt like I fell into it. And I'm like, "Oh, no, like, I wanna do good in the world, but I have student debt now." And I felt like, "Oh, I'm kind of trapped in this job." That's how I fell into being a lawyer. And I practiced law in San Francisco
Hmm.
for, like, 8 years, trying to find myself and just trying to find my I didn't know, looking back now and understanding my threeness, like, I didn't have a personality structure that looked inward. I looked outward for like, what should I do? And my family's like, become a doctor or a lawyer, second best,
Yeah. Yep.
second best, be a lawyer. And so I just sort of followed that. And I was miserable. And it
Hmm.
wasn't, but it was like, I didn't have any resource that told me to look within, right? I didn't know how to look within.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, I'm stuck. And it wasn't until I had my own like personal spiritual awakening. And I do mention it briefly in the book. It involved 12 step, it involved A Course in Miracles. And I was like, oh, I started meditating, and inside myself, something began to emerge.
Wow.
Part of that was, oh, you are called to be of service to the world. And I felt the calling on a very like global level. But here
Wow.
I was like tons of student debt and feeling like I was trapped, but like when the calling itself pulled me forward.
Wow.
And so it wasn't even a rational decision. It was like it was a knowing. I went to Unity Church, and I remember volunteering as a prayer chaplain. One day I walked out to my car and I sat down after praying all afternoon with people, and I had this, I'm going to do this for the
Wow.
rest of my life. And that's
Mm,
it. That was my call. I'm like, okay, I need to go to seminary. And that I just knew it. Like it wasn't like, should I go to school? It was like
I'm
there is
going.
nothing that will keep me from this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, now that I know, it was done. Like, you
Wow.
could yeah, I say that because people are like, "It was so courageous." I'm like, I feel like I
I
couldn't
was
have
just thinking that. Yeah.
really I was like,
Yeah.
have not done it. Like, it would have been like a death to not follow that. Like, this was life for me,
Mm.
and it was just very clear that I would do whatever it took to do that. Yeah, so
Wow. I love that so much. I love that so much. And again, at risk of just sounding so weird, I feel like I just need to speak aloud. And I don't know why it makes me feel like I want to cry. There's something about you. So I resonate as an Enneagram 4, and I'm like very sensitive to authenticity and like being seen. And there's
Mhm.
something about you, like I can honestly feel this like love from your eyes and like between us. That's like this, just this presence. And like I'm very sensitive to kind of like this in certain circles, like converting or people trying to get you to feel a certain way. Or you truly like, there's something in your presence that's like, you're loved as you are.
Aw.
Anyway, I just maybe I should have saved that for later, but I just like I can just like sense that as you're talking. It's really cool. So I can see how that would just serve you and serve the people that you work with and in your ministry. And it makes sense that you were called and that you show up the way you do in the world. And it's thank you for listening to your call. That's really beautiful.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so
Yeah.
meaningful to me. And as you were saying, this might be weird. I was like, weird is my people.
Oh, yay, yay. Okay,
I
so I
was
do have to ask too, like, would you peg me as a four? Like, I know people say like you're not supposed to like prescribe numbers, but do you do that in your work? Do you help people find their
I
number?
do help people discern, but
Okay,
I will
discern. Yeah.
never type
You
anyone,
will never type anyone.
Yes, and I
Okay.
won't even tell you if I think you're wrong unless
Yeah. I'm like, do
unless
you think
you're
I'm a
open
six though?
to it. Like me, hung out with people for a while, I'm like and then I might be like, "What makes you think you're this number?" That's how I might approach it,
Okay.
but, I mean, in my journey, if you read the book, that, like, I mistyped,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
that's
actually
right.
helpful. That's actually helpful because I find that
Cool.
people feel safer questioning their own number with me, I think, because of the
Cool.
humility of after decades of teaching the Enneagram,
Yeah.
I retyped to myself.
I forget, what did you
Yes,
originally
I
have? Was it
originally
one?
thought I was a sexual one. Yes, I mean, you could see, like, there's that, like, doing good, and there was a
I
lot of
still get
righteous.
those confused actually.
Really? Yeah, so the
Yes.
sexual 1 and the sexual 3. So I identify as a sexual 3, strong social, but I'm definitely in like, well, who knows? I'm willing to always be wrong now, but right now, like, the more I open to 3-ness, it's almost like as soon as I named it, I got to be glaringly 3 because I
Mhm.
didn't realize how much my persona of oneness, actually, of the belief that that's the ideal way to be in the world. It actually shut down the nasty word, not nasty anymore, but ambition was like, ew. Like, it's like you could be anything but ambitious. So, like, I couldn't even with authenticity. All right. My structure would not let me even entertain the idea that I had ambition within me. And so, like, it got funneled through the ones like, we will make the world a better place kind of thing, and I rejected all the descriptions of that. So yes. Okay. I'm going down another trail here, but I want to come back to what you originally said, which is yes, because of my own journey.
Yeah.
I think that, number one, I do ethically believe, and, all of my training says you do not type other people. And there are some groups out there, some communities that do type others. And think they're very right about this. My belief is even as a teacher, even as a counselor, if I feel like I'm right, I'm taking away some part of your discovery journey. It's
Yeah.
different if you land on it. It's different if you name it. And I am grateful for the people in my life who throughout the years have like, "Oh, I thought you were a 3." Like when they saw me or first met me, I'm like, "No, I'm a 1." And, I remember those moments. And it's not
Yeah.
like I didn't entertain threeness, but I've even thanked them and said, "You know what? I appreciate you letting me find my way to it." Rather than, shoving it down my throat that like, "No, you're wrong," because
Yes.
there was something I needed to process in that overlay of oneness that is vital to my healing journey, you know?
Yes.
So there was some piece about my relationship to oneness that
Yes.
needed to be dealt with, right? And
Cool.
so that coming and trusting that the spiritual journey, if my journey has always been one of opening to truth, then it will be revealed in its time.
Yes.
And so there's that, right? And so yes, I'm happy to talk about your number. I would say that if you're okay with my naming what you shared before we
Oh,
got on
sure.
the
Yeah.
call, if you so far believe that you are a 4, I haven't seen anything that says no. I'll tell you that, So there's that piece, and so it's not like, "Oh my god," I'm thinking, "She's so off," right? And
Yeah.
with few
Yeah.
people, I have this, "Oh, really?" Kinda
Yeah. Yeah.
so I will say that you are, but I definitely don't there are some good indicators that you might be in the right ballpark.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. I have
yeah.
so many questions, but I want to for sure start with your beautiful book, as we said.
Mm.
Who is it for and how did it come about? I love like the birth stories of books, and I know we've kind of touched on it, but
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, now I have to think about how far back to go on, like, how was it birthed. I can share that since I was a little girl, mm, I knew I would write a book, because books nourished me so much, and I loved
yes.
to write. And at the same time, so being a solopreneur, like, I'm busy having clients and leading groups and all that, and I remember, like, 4 or 5 years ago saying, "Hey, you need to set aside time, right,
Mm,
to write your book." But I
yes.
didn't know what book this was. I was just like, "Set aside time and the spirit will move you," and all this stuff. But what I
I love
found is,
that.
like, on Fridays when I would set aside the time, I'd be like, "Oh, I need to clean this room." I was like, "What?" It just was not happening.
yeah.
But it happened in the way that almost like all the best things in my life happen. So, I have this kind of superstition. A lot of people know about it now because I keep I'm sharing. Like, I don't knock on doors. I don't effort my way into things. It doesn't work for me. I have to be asked or invited. There's just some weird thing about my life that, like, if I don't, like, ask you to do something, it's not because I don't want to. I just find that, like, if I'm invited, I can check in, follow my gut, and go, "Yes, that's mine to do."
Yes.
But, okay, so here I am efforting, trying to,
I
like,
love
write
that you know that about yourself. First of all, that's I love that. Okay,
Thank
sorry
you.
to
Thank
interrupt.
you. No
Yeah.
worries. So, I did a little bit more back then of, like, training within corporations, and one was doing this big sort of annual event for their clients, and they're like, "Nian, could you write us some affirmations, for this event?" And they were on a very short timeline. I'm like, "You bet." And they're like, "Oh, maybe we could have it on memo pads or something like that." The funny thing I was like, "Hey," so I wrote them some affirmations for all the types, so prayers, right?
Mm.
And then the funny thing is they had me do like an hour-long event for that, like a little quick workshop, but they didn't get it together in time to create these pens or memos or whatever memo pads that they wanted to do. But I showed some of my Evolving Enneagram faculty these affirmations, and they're like, "That's good." I was like, "Yes, it is. It's helpful, isn't it?"
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing, and then suddenly I
Mm.
wrote 9 it was 1 for each number. I
Mhm.
wrote it took me like 3 hours a day. I don't know how I made time for this.
Wow.
90 days in a row. I wrote
Wow.
these. I just
Wow.
cranked them out and started I wasn't even really on Instagram. I started cranking them out, putting them on Instagram, and people are
Cool.
like, oh, they were like, "Well, who are you quoting?" I'm like, "Me." Like,
Yeah.
I
That's
was
me.
they were like, "Who wrote this?" I was like, "Me." It's so funny. They're like, "This should be a book." I'm like, "Duh." I was like, "This is my
Oh, I
book.
love that.
This is my book." So, okay. So this is just one part of this amazing story. And then so I was like, "Okay, this is a book." But it wasn't, it had to have more things added to it over time.
Yeah.
But I had the sense of, okay, I'm going to get these down and I'm going to flesh them out. So you'll see in the book, I call them activations. So
Yes.
it's like basically an invitation, like it might be self forgiveness or something.
Yes.
But when I first posted it was only the 9 activations. But what I added in the writing was the introductory material to invite you
Yes.
into it,
Yes.
like a more general theme. That's what I added after the fact. But when they were like, okay, you should write a book. I'm like, this is the book. Looking back, these daily invitations, okay, so when I first arrived at seminary, Unity has something called the Daily Word Magazine. It is a daily devotional. You have piece of scripture at the bottom. You have
Mhm.
like one word, like it could be forgiveness, right? And then you write a little blurb, and many Unity churches read this on Sundays. It goes to prisons. Well, when I arrived at seminary, guess what my first job was? I became a staff writer for the Daily Word, and I wrote these daily devotionals for 6 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, you know? And I'm like,
Yes.
these are Enneagram daily devotionals.
Wow.
So it's like that idea that when you're in your calling, your whole life has prepared you
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
Like, I really had that sense of
Mm.
course, this is the book
Stunning.
I would
Yes,
write.
of course.
Of course, this is the book,
Yes.
right? It's an Enneagram devotional, but
Yes.
from a unity perspective, from
Yes.
an interspiritual perspective.
Yes.
And it was like, duh. And then so Michael Pye, my publisher, reached out to me again. Like,
Wow!
I get this email. It was like, "Hey, I found you through some of the, international Enneagram association and conferences I've seen your name about, and would you be interested in writing a book?" I'm like, "As a matter of fact." Like, I've got a book in the works. It was like that's how so it was a yes. It was like a
Mm.
yes to that.
Mm.
And so, of course, it took some time as I was being with it. I'm like, "How do I do this? How do I offer something deep but accessible?"
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and I just sat with me and the daily word devotionals informed it, but there's a book by poet philosopher Mark Nebo called The Book of Awakening.
Yeah.
It's a daily devotional essentially, and I love this book. So
Cool.
I was like, I want to write a book that I would read. I
Yes.
like flipping to any random page in a book.
Yes.
I
Yes.
need a book
Same.
that you could flip to any page.
Yes.
And so there was a piece of that of like, I want someone to be able to open. And so
Yes.
that's how the
I've
book
been doing that recently.
so
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yes. And feel free to, chime in if you want, because my story could go on forever.
Well, I just have to say, did I say already I've been craving these activations
Oh.
because it feels like it comes right from the core of who you are. Like that's what it's activating. It's
Mm.
pulling out the very central core of us. And oh, and that's the other thing I wanted to tell you that you did do so well is that it is accessible, it's written specifically for all 9 types, but yet it goes so deep, which
Mm.
I think that's a hard thing to do to cast a wide net, but also go deep. And you did that very well. And I've loved like reading, like, oh, I wonder what would be insightful for my husband, which which he thinks he's an 8, which that's kind of funny. I thought you might get a kick out of that we're potentially a
Ooh,
4-8
that's an
combo.
intense combination.
We're intense. We're spicy.
Spice.
But do you have a favorite activation? Like
Oh
one
my
that's like, "This is my"
Honestly, it depends on the day.
Okay.
That said, yes, I say that, and I would say that the one that I turn to is the last one, actually, which is
Is
funny
it?
because the last one is at the end
Did
of
I
the
just read
day.
that one today? I just read that this morning. Yes. Yes. I love it. Sorry,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
what more in my 3ness do I need than, I mean, the final reflection, I can pull it out is, what if there's really nothing more you need to be or do right here and right now? Like,
Mm,
that's the closing reflection question at the end of the day. And, of
yes.
course, there are individual activations, but why? I mean, it's kind of like how I started the book, and I have to say it's really hard. It's like pick your favorite babe child, right?
Yes, right.
So
Yeah.
but I think going to that conveys what I'm hoping to convey from the start of the book, right? That this is not a self-improvement project. That
Mm,
at the end of a book, you might be like, "Well, what's next?" Right? "What do I have to do now?" Right? As
mm.
opposed to rest,
I
like
love
rest
that.
and enoughness.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So
Right.
that's the invitation.
I love that one. And I also the one that really piqued interest. Well, first of all, on the one that you mentioned at the end of the day, mine is to remember to practice gratitude for all that you have.
Mm,
And in short, it's just been something I've really been working on, like
mm.
deep level contentment and knowing that everything I long for begins with everything that's right here, reality as it is.
Wow.
Um, and why was I so intrigued by this one? Your inner, wait, why don't I know how to say this word? Dynamism.
Yes, dynamism.
Dynamism? Okay. Um, and you talk about the lines on the
Mm,
Enneagram chart. And so in the now that I know the very little that I know about Enneagram, I think I learned about those as being called like when you're stressed,
yes.
you go I would go to a 2, and when I am in an area of growth, I would go to a 1.
Yes.
How would you talk about these lines,
Yes.
and how does that help us grow into our more
Mm.
authentic self?
I love that you really kind of latched onto that particular activation. I do believe that that connecting lines activation could be its own book. Like,
Okay.
it's so much.
It does seem like that.
It's rich, it's
Yeah.
rich. And yes, so basically the person, I think it's Oscar Ichazo originally who talked about this. It could be his student Claudio Naranjo who talked about the lines and originally kind of threw this out that one's integration, one's disintegration. All the early teachers were like, that's it. And so that's how they began to teach it. And then
Yeah.
later he's like, oh, sorry, I misspoke. So everyone's like, "What?" It's like in all the books now. Integration and disintegration.
Yeah.
And one everybody had it in their heads. In my early studies, same thing. One way was bad, one way was good, right? It was like that was the feeling. This is your stress, this is the positive area. And then now the recognition and the and honestly, I think it's also people living it out and realizing it's not that simple that
Yeah.
you can go to the high or the low of both of the points on those lines, right? So if you identify as a 4, you can go to the high or the low of 1. It's not so simple. And then
Mm,
the high or the low of 2. And
yeah.
of course, you talked about growing consciousness. If I go to a point consciously, like, that's gonna help me go to the high claim the high side of that point, right? It's the unconscious move either way that can create trouble for us, right? And so
Yes.
this whole idea of intentional
Hmm.
movement along the lines and embracing of it and yes, and then looking
I love
at
that.
how one line is your stress point
Yeah.
in that when you're unconscious and it's almost like your system needs to let off steam, foreness
Mm,
isn't working, it can drop into, your stress point, right? Which is
yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And so you can see fourness. There are 4s I know that like maybe mistyped as 2s because there's some codependency maybe overlay in that, but also living in their stress point of 2 where they felt like they had to help. Like the difference is like 4s might do the 2 behavior,
Yeah.
but they're definitely less prideful and more resentful about it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really wanna be doing this. You know,
Right.
the two's like, "Oh, yes," like, a little bit more like
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, because I notice myself if I start to, like, volunteer a lot or offer to do things, I'm like, "What's going on in me?" Like, is
Interesting.
this from a true place? Is that like a conscious way to look at it? Like, is that or is
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think dropping into to know your motivation, like, where
Yeah,
it's coming from,
yeah,
I think that's so core to this idea of awakening, right?
mhm,
That number 1, just because I know the motivation doesn't mean, like, I'm gonna make it bad, right? It's like, "Oh,
yeah,
wow, I'm lonely or something, and I'm reaching out to, like, offer something because I want that connection," or whatever it is. That doesn't make it bad, but it's more of, like, being self-aware in, like, "This is the reason I reached out. I'm reaching out for
yeah,
connection." To know that it makes our reaching out cleaner.
mm. Oh, I love that, like, I that just immediately became a prayer for me, like, I
Mm.
wanna live, like, from a clean
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
You mentioned awakening and consciousness. What do these mean to
yeah,
you, and why does it matter? Like, why do I wanna grow in consciousness?
yeah, yeah. So, for me, I think when I first started the journey, it was a self-improvement thing. "Oh, I'm like, I wanna be a better person, so I will grow in consciousness." And I realized, like, the more self-loving thing that has moved into me is that when I grow in consciousness, then I suffer less. And meaning
Mm,
because I suffer again, this goes more deeply into my metaphysics. I believe that we suffer at the deepest level because we believe we are separate from God.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
For me, growing in consciousness is growing in the awareness of my wholeness,
mm,
my unity with all
yeah,
life, my oneness, including my oneness with the divine, with the one. And that to me is the root not only of our suffering, but of why we cause suffering.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the root of what we call sin, that, like, the false belief, the error, the erroneous belief that I am deprived of something, that my
mhm,
good is not already fully given, whether
mhm,
it's love or power or security. And if I know this, how differently do I live?
yes,
This is like my life purpose here. We're talking about like this is
yes,
how I aspire to live,
yes,
to remember in a way. I mean, you talked about the word remembering earlier, to remember so that I can live from that remembrance.
yes,
And that in my remembrance, not only for myself, but for you, my
yes,
beholding of you,
yes.
that I can support the drawing forth of more of that in the world. Because why would I need I mean, I believe that people steal
Lovely.
because they don't know they're not connected to that enoughness, that
Yes,
sufficiency,
yes,
And I understand that there's a real world piece to this, but I believe that everything in like the manifest or the material world begins in consciousness,
yes.
right? And so that starting foundation
Mm,
allows more of that good to manifest. Yeah.
that's so beautiful.
Mm.
It just makes me think of the electromagnetic field of our heart too.
Mm.
That just kept coming to mind as you were
Wow.
talking, like, how that authentically cleans it, purifies it, sends it outward. Um, that remembering and living from that space. I love like, I just want you to keep talking about that. It just feels like it, like, washes over me. Like, I just enjoy it so much. Well, actually, in that light, what does consciousness and remembering and awakening have to do with Jesus' original teaching? May I ask that?
Sure. Yeah, not that I'm not the
Or, like,
expert in what Jesus really taught, but look what I
from
personally
your
believe.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, let me tell you the truth about Jesus. No, so my understanding is that So many of us I do have an idealistic version of people. Like, I believe in
Mhm.
life. I believe in that fundamental goodness, and I believe that we try to love. And the message of Jesus, I think the core message is that of love.
Mhm.
And so many of us, so we get that message and we have no idea how. We do it from the egoic place of now, I think I should. I don't really, but a good person, a Christian or whatever, should forgive, right? And so even though I'm suffering, I'm angry, I'm sad, I haven't really even processed the hurt, and I'm like, dutifully, we will try to forgive. And so this message of like love, I feel like this Enneagram informed contemplation that helps us to awaken to that like inner radiance.
Yeah.
Love is natural, and I love that you talked about this field, like, I feel like this like, the ego trying to love is not love in my view,
Yes.
you know?
Right.
When you talk about there are so many traditions around the world that talk about the purity of the heart.
Yes.
And I want to be clear when I talk about that, that we don't go back to the old model of, oh, you're sinful, you're bad. You need to purify your heart so you can show up well. But it's almost more like, oh, I can't see clearly through a heart that is muddied with limiting beliefs about you and about me.
Mhm.
And the cleansing that I have found happening through centering prayer, which is my primary spiritual practice, is like, oh, it just it is the gift of the practice. It's not something I make happen. And I was so touched when you described me as like feeling like loving to you,
Mhm.
because years ago when I set out to be a minister, I mean, remember as a lawyer, I remember thinking, I want to be a living prayer and a prayer of love.
Wow.
That's what I, this is what I want to embody,
Yes.
you know, and recognizing that I was not gonna get at it by striving for it, by perfecting myself, by correcting myself, but by surrendering
Mm.
myself.
Mhm.
That's the path that I have found works, and any given day, that doesn't mean I don't get gnarly. I mean, ask my partner, like
Mm.
like, you know, at the
Yeah.
same time, I know it, I can feel it. Like, my love for life, for
Mhm.
strangers, like
Yes.
has just it even in moments where I used to think I had no feelings, and now it's like, I remember going to Chicago a year ago and going I was like, "I'm so sensitive." Like, the man who was, like, pushing everybody was kinda partying along the water there, and I saw this man, like, pushing a big, like, garbage bin, and I just had this, like, heart movement go out to, like, what is his life like? Like,
Mm.
is this day okay? Just, like, thinking about that as I was walking by,
Yeah.
with all the revelers, on like, it was a weekend night, and just being aware it's like I'm more aware of the spectrum of humanity around me
Yes.
that used to like, if I'm honest, from threeness, people like, I'll just own that I didn't fully realize how much I thought of people, and including myself, as function, in terms
Yeah.
of function.
Yeah.
And so my lens would go to people who had a function in my life. I mean, it didn't have to be like a function work-wise, it could be like relationship, intimacy-wise, but
Yeah.
it's almost like other people were irrelevant.
Yeah.
And now it's like my eye span has changed. Like,
Yes.
people aren't irrelevant based on whether or not they have a function in my life. There's
Yes.
an awareness of humanity, and then even, like, animals, I mean, even down to, like, trying to usher spiders out of my house now. Like, I was like, "Go this way, don't" like, "You can't be here. I don't wanna kill you." Like I'm becoming so sensitive, it's weird. So,
Oh, I
but
love
I feel
that.
like, and I was just trying not to do harm, to these beings, and again, not perfectly, because I'm like, "Oh, but I'm not a vegetarian," so, like but I do believe in, like, like, the Native American way of, like, honoring, at least, like, if
Yes.
it's gonna take a life, like, I
Yeah.
can be more conscious of honoring that
Yeah.
life that, like,
I
gives
love that.
me life, and so
Yes.
these are things that have changed drastically for me
Yes.
over the years, and I
Yes.
don't feel like I tried to become this person. It
Yeah.
was that I was just willing to let go of who I was. "I die daily," says Saint Paul, right?
Mm.
And
Yes.
in that apophatic process that is, that
Yes.
surrender process, that letting go, letting be process that is centering prayer, something else emerges.
Yes.
And that's my business what that is, because if it's my business, then I'm curating it.
Yes.
I'm forming myself rather than being formed by, like,
Mm.
the divine. Yeah,
Stunning.
yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of going rogue here, and we don't have to include this if we want. But how do you make sense of, like, evil
Mm,
in the world?
it's a
Or
great question. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay. So so you want me to
May
I don't write about
may
this
I
in my
ask,
book.
do we have another 45?
I've been thinking about this question all my life, so, like, I'm happy to have you ask it. So, my I believe that someone said once, "Everything but God is a metaphor." And by that, I mean that every time we use words, we're only giving metaphors for existence. So here's my metaphor that helps me
Hmm.
understand, like, conceptualize what I see as, quote, evil in the world.
Yeah.
So I do believe in, if it's accurate or not, that the word sin comes from the Greek term that is like the archer missing the mark, like this
Yes.
idea of error.
Yes.
And I believe that life is consciousness, like that basically it's like the mind of God, like infinite intelligence and wisdom is like the fabric of being. And within that, like, there's this idea of it simply being ignorance. Like, again, I was blind, but now I see. I was
Yes.
ignorant. I didn't see the truth for what it is.
Yes.
So for me, when I believe that I am separate from the divine, in
Yes.
all our 9 egoic ways around the Enneagram,
Yeah.
then here I am. You're separate from me. And I have a strategy for making it in the world. And this strategy I'm going to pursue relentlessly, compulsively, even
Mm.
at times when it doesn't serve my highest interest, right? And so maybe it is, if you think about like a 6 seeking security.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a self-preservation 6. So security in material things. If I don't feel like I have it, and you can bet I'm gonna be more of a hoarder. I'm gonna be greedier in the world. I'm gonna take more for my family's security, maybe at
Yes.
your expense, right? I mean, I'm
Right.
not even talking about criminal level of, like, sinfulness, right? And
Yeah.
so I believe this, and again, some people might be like, "It's very idealist." It is very I like, this idea that we're fundamentally good if we're disconnected from our true nature,
Mhm.
and we believe that here's a world where I have to figure out how to make it, right? And
Yes.
good is not gonna be given to me, and some
Yeah.
type like the eights are like, "You have to take it. You have
Mm.
to take it."
Mm.
And so that to me is like the root
The root.
of
Yeah.
why people behave
Yeah.
in these unskillful ways
Yes.
that to me not only harm others, but I believe when we are not acting out of our true nature, we are inevitably harmed.
Yes.
That I move further and further away, that my
Yeah.
job to love isn't just because
Mm.
you are worthy, but when I act out of something different, I'm not
Yeah.
acting from my true nature. I
Yes.
disconnect from my true nature in
Yes.
order to commit these things. And so I move further and further away. And then I move further and further away from believing that I deserve love then.
Yes.
So it becomes this vicious cycle of the
Mm.
further away I move, the less deserving I feel. I mean, you see addicts, this happens in addiction of like, "Oh, now I'm less deserving," or even in my own recovery process, if I feel like I've acted out, I've messed up, I feel less deserving of love. And if
Yes.
I feel less deserving and more shameful, you can bet we're going to reach out for more addictive substances, whether it's condoned by our society, like workaholism,
Mhm.
or whether it's not condoned, like illicit drugs, whatever that is. And so,
Yes.
yes, that's to me why? And so I've always wanted to be of service in the world. I'm like, what would be of service in the most core way? From the root, from the
Yes.
root, the belief in separation from this ultimate reality that
Yes.
many of us call God or love or light. And if
Yes.
you have that, it will change you. I don't need
Yes.
to. I don't need to govern you. I
Yes.
can help point you toward that. And from that place, I will trust you because that
Hmm.
is the same seat of love. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
You say being of service to the world, and so many long to live in that space, to live from purpose. I just heard someone say recently, like, we do have a need for control, and that it comes from like this longing for some level of agency because we long to change the world. And I love thinking
mhm,
about it in that way. Can the Enneagram and your work
mm.
help align us with our purpose? And how does it do that?
Well, because as you're asking that, I'm like, this is the whole purpose of my book. So,
Yes,
I mean, to
yes.
align
Okay.
with
Yeah.
purpose, which is
Yeah.
also love, but love
Yes, yes.
expressed uniquely through the point of view. And, it's funny I use point of view because now literally your point on
Wow.
the Enneagram, like there's a unique expression of that oneness through
Wow.
you,
Wow.
right?
And that is our purpose, our
Yes.
unique expression of the oneness.
Yes.
Wow. Oh, I love thinking about purpose that way. I love that. I love that. That's so beautiful. So, is that something I know you have your course coming up?
Mm, mm.
Is that what do you dive into in your course?
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, I have a couple different things coming up.
Yeah.
September 12th? Okay. So basically, this is the first year that I've been studying the Enneagram since 2002, teaching it since 2006, 7. And this is the first year where I will begin to teach what I teach. Like it's almost like I'm teaching training
Cool. Yes.
trainers. So module 1 of that is called Contemplative Enneagram Foundations:
Mm.
Awakening to Wholeness. That's what's happening all that weekend, the 12th through the 14th. It's 8 hours a day, so it's an immersive process. And yes, that is designed to give you this contemplative framework that I've been talking about. Like,
Yes.
what's the difference between striving to be a better person or striving to love
Yes.
and opening to love,
Yes.
surrendering to love, and allowing that to inform you? And then finding the 9 different ways we are blocked to the practice, for one. So, this
Mm.
is where the Enneagram helps. It's this like idea that I might be like, this doesn't feel useful or productive to sit here in silence
Yeah.
for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
I mean, people joke that like you don't get a lot of threes doing this work. We're too busy doing things in the world,
That's
And
funny. Do you have
yeah,
a number that you get the most?
it's actually okay. So nines love centering prayer. So
Uh-huh.
there are a lot of nines.
Yeah.
But what I found that it's cycled through the years, and I believe
Funny.
as a here's my belief, that it's like whatever life lessons I need. So those are the people who show up in my groups, of course, you know?
Wow. I love that so much.
It's hilarious. I was like, "Oh, more of you, okay." So I'm clearly this is the next thing. But what's
Yes.
really funny, our Monday contemplative practices in the Enneagram group, I think this coming fall term, it's still
Yeah.
open for anyone who's called, it's Monday 6 to 7:30 PM Central Time,
Oh,
has with
cool.
me, like 5 type 4s, 4 type 4, I mean, no, not 4s, 3s, type 3s. I'm like, you don't get that many of us in any of these things. We're just in one group of like 12 people. So it's really funny. And then it's like our Wednesday group for the longest time was like filled with 4s and 8s. It's like, they're
That is so
really
funny. I love that.
hilarious. But we often get, it's like someone's a 9 married to an 8 and she ends up in a group with lots of 8s having to process, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really funny. So it does cycle, but I think probably I heard that organizations take on, the types of their leaders, right?
Oh,
And yeah, it's kind of interesting. But
yeah.
so that's a whole other conversation. But I also think that, like, for me, maybe because I'm an assertive type on the Enneagram, meaning 3s, 7s, and 8s lie in that social stance of assertiveness, that I think that they feel more welcome in some of these groups,
Yeah.
like, I'm more intense, I'm more like, and so there's, like, more space for them in a
Yeah.
way where, like, they feel like they can get it. That's my theory of, like, there
Yeah.
maybe for a contemplative space, I may draw more people who are assertive types than other contemplative spaces where everything, it's sort of that we're only peaceful here, we're spiritual, and it's like
Yes.
in all of my groups, the come as you are
Yes.
mantra is
Yes.
real. Like if
Mm.
you just had a big fight with your partner, come on in.
Yeah.
You don't have to get yourself together to come into the group. You will be
Yes.
more healed if you come into the group as you are. And so
Yes.
that's the invitation in all of my groups. And so related to that, I realize I'm kind of going off here, but related to that, there's something to where this false separation between like my humanity and my divinity,
Mm.
like that all of it belongs, right? Father Richard Rohr's famous term, everything belongs.
Yes.
Like I take it seriously. Do I
I
do it
love that.
perfectly? No. That's part of my humanity, but like that even gets to belong. Like, because if I'm allowed to go, oh, that person triggers me as the leader,
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
do my work.
Yes.
But if I have to pretend that I'm just so spiritual, then I can't really face that truth and heal.
Yes.
But my
Yes.
goal is to love. I often tell people it's like loving is not about loving what we already naturally love. It's
Mm.
about how we open to loving what we didn't used to love. And that to me
Yes.
is what Jesus meant by love your enemies.
Yes.
Love your apparent enemies. Love the people that you believe are against you.
Yes.
And love doesn't mean be their best friend,
Yep.
but it means hold your heart open. And
Yeah.
so if I have any type that comes in and it's triggering to me, then another opportunity to love more expansively, to see
Mm.
what triggers me and why that triggers me. What does it why do I think this is like maybe let's just give it an example. Hey,
Yeah.
like nines. If I feel like threes do have a pretty quick clip, and if there's a nine going slow and churn, like, I feel like I was like, I think in the past I would have died. I just been like, "Let's get with it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, what's the gift here?" It's like I can
What's the
feel that,
gift
like, the
here?
slowness.
Yes.
I'm like, "Get to the point," but I'm like, the point isn't the end point. That's the threes way. The threes way is the point is what happens at the end, the goal.
Mm.
And it's like, well, what is the journey here? What is this person asking for? Maybe it's not that they're asking to be understood. I figured
Yes.
that out in 2 minutes of what they shared. It's
Yes.
that they're asking to be held. They're they're asking to be presence, even in their slowness. They're
Yes.
asking to be loved in this particular way of
Yes.
pay attention to me. Maybe I haven't had attention all my life. So I'm dragging these words just to keep you here. I don't know. That's a
Mhm.
very different way of approaching someone's slowness versus just tell me and get
Yes.
it over with, right?
Yep.
And that old way of like get to your point, like the point is relationship more than
Yes.
is the end point of that.
Yes.
That's a lesson I learned through someone sharing slowly that might have
Mm.
like been upsetting or triggering to me in the
Yes.
past, right? Yeah.
I love that. I love thinking about the world as our mirror
Mm.
and relationships as our greatest mirror. And I don't think I've thought about it in the way of, like, as you're saying, like, kind of pointing me towards, like, the root of my fourness or, like, thinking about that specifically. At least that's kind of what I was hearing a little bit, like, the way others are
Yes.
guiding us to heal our root.
This brings me all the way back to your question about purpose and wholeness,
Yeah.
which is this idea that pointing you to your fourness in a way that helps you to go beyond your fourness, like
Yes.
meaning into your wholeness. That's
Yes.
exactly it,
Yeah.
right? Because every Enneagram type has an idealized egoic structure.
Yes.
This is how I would ideally be. Everything else gets shadowed. So it is, in a way, it's shadow work and
Yes.
group work, community work is inevitably shadow work if you're willing to stay. I know some
Mm.
people, they come and they're like, "Oh, is this nice or this not nice?" I'm like, "Oh, if they trigger you, that could exactly be like
Yes.
what your what is your invitation at this moment, right?
Yes.
That it's not like, oh, these people are boring or they're not grow. In my past, it would have been like if it
Mm.
felt like people were stuck in a rut, that would be my
Yes.
judgment, right? And not understanding that maybe I had an overemphasis on growth and a growth
Yeah.
mindset rather
Yes.
than being and
Yes.
being here and enjoying my life. And so I couldn't get the gift before if I
Yes.
only looked at it from the egoic structure's way of holding space. Right. And so my hope is that those who
Huh.
sign up for these ongoing groups, so this is different from that weekend. The weekend intensive is module one of a 5 module year-long certification program, but anyone can
Amazing.
come to that one. So we actually filled up. So I think when we first booked this,
Oh, yeah.
yes, we could talk about that, but we're full for the
Wow,
certification.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
I'm excited about that. Of course, you
That's
can get on the
incredible.
wait list,
Yeah.
but module 1 and module 2 is open to anyone because we don't get into the professional piece until module 3. So I was
Cool.
like, there are people who are serious
Yeah.
spiritual students, and so they
Yes.
wanted to be able to join this without taking,
Yes.
they're like, "I'm not in a stage where I wanna make this my profession yet." So, I opened it to everyone, and
Cool.
and and I'll add that we're recording it, so, like, if you feel like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of time to take away the whole weekend,"
Yes.
you can just come for whatever sections you can come for live to enjoy the community, but then just watch the rest recorded. So that's an option for people as well, and you
That's
could,
fantastic.
I'll keep the recordings open as long as possible. Committed to a year, but maybe it'll be indefinite. But yeah, so people can like rewatch and immerse themselves. And yeah, so that though, I think is different from our ongoing
Mm.
contemplative practice groups, basically.
Cool.
Yeah. And those groups started in 2017. I said they started, I guess I started them in 2017, and they've been ongoing. And it's
Cool.
amazing. We just took a summer break. Because after a few years, people are like, maybe we'll take the summer off and refresh. And we have 5 different groups starting
Wow.
the week of September 22nd. Yes, yes. Centering prayer, 20
Amazing.
minutes of silence, and then you just share from your type. And we found this to be a really like healing model of
Cool.
community holding authentic, like people have said this is authentic spiritual community. This is what we hope
Yes.
spiritual community would be rather than putting on your church face, right?
Yes.
It's like what is really going on? How do we really awaken?
Mm.
And again, experiencing each other in that's more like essence to essence. I
Yes.
know people have told me how much, oh my, like people with issues with eights, they're like, oh my gosh, when you hear like these conscious eights and you hear what's behind what they're doing, like the
Yes.
love and the compassion just begins to
Yes.
really flow.
Yes.
And so it's like the world, by presencing each other in this way, it's
Mm.
like I really believe it's like inside out impact the
Mm.
world, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
stunning. That's so stunning. Yeah, my sweet 8 husband, I've never seen anybody melt more to a puppy dog or an animal meme than him. Like,
huh.
he's the most just he's intense, but is so, so tender. I don't know
Yes.
why I felt like saying that, but, um,
Oh, no, I'll jump
yeah,
in and say 8s often get a bad rap, and so I think it's important to name
yeah,
that that the truth of 8ness is this
yeah,
armor protecting
yes,
mush.
yep,
Protecting this tenderness,
yes,
and an integrated 8, and I feel like I have the blessing of knowing a few
mm,
really evolved, like, awake 8s who are like they have the power of the 8,
yes, yes. I love
and
that.
but their hearts are also online and
Oh,
awake at the same time. When those 2 merge, it's like nothing quite like that kind of love.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love that description. Yes. So,
Mm.
a couple more questions, and I wanna be respectful of your time. I've heard people say, like, as we continue to just I don't know what the word is, grow or evolve, that we kind of become more, like all of
Uh,
the numbers. What's your thought on that? Yeah, just what's your thought on that? Do we become more of the numbers? Are we always
yes.
our most purest number?
Yeah. Again, another great question. I love these questions, by the way. So, the lingo that I use is that, okay, basically, I say that the Enneagram is a map of our conscious awakening, right? It's a
Yeah.
symbol. And so if you look at the Enneagram as the map of one person, like that, the circle represents you in your wholeness. You are
Mhm.
whole, and that's what the circle, the law of one represents. If you look at where the types are situated, they're on the circumference. It's like the surface of of wholeness, right? It's only like there, right? Like
Yeah.
the idea that we get fixated. So you hear the language of we're fixated rather than spiritually free. If I'm fixated, I can only show up in one way. For a two, I can only show up as seeming to be this generous person. I can't have needs. I can't be whole.
Yeah.
So when it budges so that we get less fixated from our number, we go into the wholeness of the Enneagram. And
Yes.
so when I talk about, so I'm a type 3, but I talk about the Enneagram as a map, I call it points. So I
Yeah.
don't think we become other types. Like when people say you're all the types, I'm just like, oh, that's, like that's not technically how
Yeah.
I hold it. We never become another type.
Yeah.
It's that we have access to our own humanity and our whole
Yes.
divinity. And it may happen that part of my wholeness includes a lot of this number, right? But before I didn't let it out, right? And so it's
Yes.
more of like I'm free to express skillfully whatever point, whatever aspect, whatever quality of being
Yes.
is needed. And so we equate that with other qualities. So a 9 might say something like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to 8. I'm tapping into the 8 in order to assert myself or, show my anger." I don't necessarily agree with that because I'm like, well, 9s are actually anger types too, but like it's your anger, not the 8's. So that's a whole
Yeah.
other, but the general idea is that we're the points. It's not even just the points of other types. It's the points within us,
Yes.
the map of me. This
Hmm.
quality that is part of my truth has room to be expressed.
Hmm.
My creativity leaning into the fore as I started writing poetry as I
Yeah.
began this journey. I mean, when I was a little kid, I loved poetry, but you could bet while I was like studying law and like all of that like was shut down, and then suddenly, people have expressed it. They think I have a four wing and I'm like, I don't know, I have a lot of two too, but I think it's more that I have availability to
Hmm.
aspects of my being that touch on things like depth and beauty and
Yeah.
just didn't have permission, right? It didn't have permission to express because
Yeah.
egoic structure locks it down. Like if, for an 8, like if the 8 is like, they know, like they have this tender side. But why do they have the reputation they have? Well, most people don't see it. They don't have permission to show it and be it for fear that, I mean, 8's a rejection type. So at root, the 8's like, if
What
they,
are the rejection types? Anger types, rejection.
yes,
Yeah.
no, I
I
feel like,
didn't know that existed.
so the Enneagram, I'm talking about so many different layers. I love the complexity of the Enneagram. So
Yeah.
earlier when I was talking about assertive types, I was talking about what we call like
Yeah.
the social stances. That's a whole
Yes.
teaching. I'm trying to
Yes.
remember. I might have a YouTube talk on it. I have a bunch of,
Okay.
oh, by the way, Sunday talks. I'm going to
Yes.
start them up again. I took a break over the summer, but Contemplative Enneagram talks on Evolving Enneagram's YouTube channel. I think I have
Cool.
one on the conflict styles. I'm not sure if I have one on the
Wow.
social styles, but yeah, because I try to focus less on the teaching and more on the contemplation. But that
Yes.
said, okay, so I have to now say it. So assertive types would be 3, 7, 8. It's almost like when you don't have what you want, how do you go about and get it? You go, they say, against people, out toward what you want.
Yes.
The withdrawn types are the 4, the 5, and the 9.
Yep.
And so it's almost like when you don't get what you want, you go
Yes.
within to get it.
That's
There's a,
so funny. Yeah.
yeah. So So that's and then there's, like, the compliant or dependent stance, which is the 1, 2, and the 6. And that type will again,
Wow.
I know, this that type
Yeah.
will more, like, go with people. It's almost like if this is such a short description, I feel like I'm not doing it justice, but just the short version of,
Y
like, the different
yes.
styles, that they go with people or align or for the ones align with their superego to thinking, "If I align with this or conform with this, I will get my needs met," right? So different
Yes.
strategies for that. Then let's jump to the what you named as the anger types. So,
Yeah.
again, a quick tutorial. The Enneagram is really based in a lot of sacred geometry, so numbers matter.
Mm.
The law of 1, the whole circle, you have this inner triangle that represents the law of 3. The Enneagram loves triads, threes. So 1 triad is this called centers of intelligence. And again, the book doesn't go into detail about this, but so there are 3 centers of intelligence. And this is not like you're smarter in this. It's more of like my intelligence is like how I gather information, my perceptual lens for gathering information.
Yes.
And so we have the body types 8, 9, and 1, and they have somatic, like there's 8, 9, and 1 that like they
Yeah.
gather through their body this
Yeah.
intelligence.
Yeah.
Those also are the anger types. So they're equated with the anger type. So
Wow.
so they have a special relationship to dealing with anger. Repressing it, overexpressing it is the 8,
Yes.
repressing it is the 1, and the 9's like pushing it away both ways, Again, this is like
Yeah.
the shortest tutorial ever. And then we go
It's
into the heart
stunning.
types, us,
Yes.
2, 3s, and 4s are the heart types. So
Oh.
it's the way we process information. You could feel
Mm.
that, right? Like connection
Yeah.
to the heart, right? And that doesn't mean like for the 3, historically the 3 process it, but that doesn't mean we express our own heart. That's the issue with the 3. Like we were like, I'm gonna figure out everyone else's heart and do what they think is valuable, right?
Wow.
But in that heart and the emotion that's equated is sadness. And so
Wow.
going within, when we begin the inner work, oftentimes that's the first thing we encounter. I
Yeah.
definitely relate to that grief, sadness, being
Yeah.
very close, even in 3.
Wow.
I mean, they usually you hear that in 4s, right? Or 2s, but all of us. And then I'll do the final one just in the interest of time. I'll skim over. I'd like to sit with you with it, but the final one is, 5, 6, 7, the head types. So you
Yes.
could see that they're looking for how to think about it first, like the
Mm.
beliefs, strategies, processing through their head, even their emotions. It's like they think their emotions, right? And that is equated with fear. So anger,
Yeah.
sadness, and fear, like the
Yeah.
core if you have primary colors, those like the primary emotions. And so
Yes.
at that bottom, you can see that they all have a special relationship to fear, and that's more on the surface. Again,
Yes.
under expressing fear, over expressing fear, yeah.
Yes.
Again, this is like
So
and
I love like regenerative health and body support. So immediately my mind's going to like, okay, the liver is connected with fear. So I need to get my husband like herbal liver support. I need like what's connected with grief? Like fear is adrenal. Anyways, sorry, that's like a whole tangent, but that wow is stunning. Okay, you are a wealth. Just like just you have so much stunning knowledge. And
mm,
this conversation just confirms like I have so much to learn.
mm,
And it truly does feel like you're offering this compassionate, just work for like this map of consciousness, as you said. But just like the way that I feel like you take in information all comes through this like compassionate space. And like
mm.
that's what it's this offering feels like just seeing the world more compassionately. Which is just so lovely. But is there anything else on your heart that you wanna share? And then I just
God.
have a couple closing questions for you.
No, I feel like I would have closed emphasizing compassion and you've already done that, and maybe I would just affirm that that I believe, for each person listening, your type's going to have an orientation that takes you away. And I can even hear a gentle amount of that in what you're sharing of like that do I would like to learn more, and your desire to learn more about the Enneagram. I mean, I hope everyone leaves this feeling that, but not from a place of lack, more like from a
Yes.
place of
Yes.
adventure or discovery or
Adventure.
joy, right?
Yes,
That
yes,
hope is that if you're whole already,
yes,
that assumption,
yes,
what would you do?
yes,
Would you do if you already knew that? Not, "Oh my god, I'm not enough, and so I better read Nyen's book," and, maybe by reading the book, you can remember that. That's my
yes.
hope, right?
Yep.
Right? Because I do believe that the world is naturally served by us, and when you said,
Mm,
yes, you have this compassion, I'm like, I only have what I have been given.
mm,
Like, I have what I have been graced with. I have what I've let myself have.
mm.
And so that's my hope for you and for anyone
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I have what I let myself have. That's beautiful. May I ask you a few rapid fire questions to close?
Okay,
Okay.
I better sit up.
Okay. Yes, me too. So, when do you remember the presence of God from within your body?
Mm, definitely in times of stillness. Yeah, it doesn't matter where I am because I was like, "Oh," many people say in nature. I love nature, but I remember it not through my hustle, but, like, if I get really still,
Mm,
like,
yes.
something drops. It's, like, in my belly center even.
Yes. How about the presence of Jesus or Christ consciousness? Is it the same, different?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do feel like Jesus is a teacher for me. I even have a picture in my office to kind of remind me. But that does sometimes, when I appeal to the teacher, it does feel a little bit more outside of me. But Christ consciousness is something I believe we all have. That's that indwelling, like our highest self, if you will. And it's funny because I automatically went to my heart center in that one.
Cool.
And yeah, for some reason, that's where I feel like yes, like there's a value system in there. There's a yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
I
feel.
love that, especially you just mentioning too that you're heart type, right? That it's heart. That's
Yeah.
cool. What does faith mean to you?
Mm. Faith for me is a ground of being from which I live and
Mm,
move
mm.
and have existence. Yeah. Yeah. It is not a belief for sure. But like,
Ground. Yes.
yeah,
That
like,
like helps me like drop down into myself just you saying that.
yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
I love that. How do you hear from God? And if I may ask, what are you hearing right now?
How do I hear from God? I feel like I hear from God everywhere at all times through all people, through like the leaves outside my window, like there's that sound. And I realized as I was thinking that, like, oh, that's changed. Before I only heard like, oh, I'm asking you a question, God, and now I'm listening, as opposed to I'm just listening.
Wow.
Like this is the offering. Am I
Mm.
listening?
Mm.
The birds just flitted by,
Oh,
of the
yes.
tree out here. And I'm like, I didn't used to ever notice in that listening. And yes, of course, when it comes to guidance, there is this like, I know it's here when I need it.
Mm.
Maybe I know this is a long answer, but that story, the manna falling from heaven, and this idea that you can't hoard it. Like, if I,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Come at its time and like at its time. Like, right? Like, if I wanted to know the answer beforehand, it would have helped my need for security and certainty.
Mm.
Not gonna happen. Unless it's like, it's the right time, I will know it for its time, and there's a deep trust in the timing of the
Wow.
divine messenger as well. Yeah.
Wow. I'm bringing that with me. Whew. And lastly, I love to end every episode just with an invitation to healing for the week ahead, like whether that be a breath practice, a prayer, or just a small mindset shift. Is
Mm,
there anything you might want to
mm.
offer that comes to mind?
Yes. Well, since we're both heart types,
Yeah.
perhaps I could invite everyone listening and you as well to do it's a heart math breathing practice.
Cool.
as simple as I'll invite you to close your eyes only if you're comfortable doing so. Obviously, if you're driving while listening, please keep your eyes open. And as you bring your awareness to your breath, I invite you to visualize your breath as if it is going right through the center of your chest, that heart center. And perhaps we could be in sacred silence together for a few moments as you visualize your breath moving in and out right through
Uh,
the center of your chest and drawing it out even to the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the exhale, breathing through our hearts together for just a few moments in the silence right now.
wow.
So we give
Oh,
thanks for divine love, fully present here now, within us, between us, among us, love in which we live and move and have our infinite being. And so it is. Amen.
amen. Thank you so much. I was reminded how much I protect my heart
Oh.
throughout the day, and that felt like an encouragement to let myself be seen. It's been such an honor to share this space with you.
Mm.
Again, I'm like, "Gosh, Kate, you're so weird," but I love animal symbolism, and I actually don't know what this symbolizes, but a dove, like, came to my mind just now. I might have to go look that up later. Just comes to mind with you, but I just feel so humbled and just enlivened and grateful
Mm.
to learn from you and share this space. So thank you so much for sharing your heart and your wisdom today.
Mm. It's been
How can
amazing.
we find you?
Okay. Right.
Kate, don't forget that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Evolvingenneagram.com is where you can find all the things like the
awesome.
classes, the certification, even the book. You can find a link and order a signed copy if you want of the book, and such. So,
Yay.
yeah.
Congratulations on your book as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah. What a
Thank
joy
you.
it's been to be with you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.